Hello everyone. I promised myself I'm going to brace myself for parto. How does one begin to mourn the loss or celebrate the life of a loved one? Where does one begin? For me, I'll start from the beginning. And the beginning of my memories with parto are literally as far back as I can remember. Parto was exactly 13 months older than me, 13 months and 3 weeks older than me. And so ever since I was born, she's been there. You see, our fathers went to college together, and when they met their wives, our moms met, obviously, and they became really good friends. And when our parents started their families, then the close group, the network of the friends that they had, we became an extended family, many of whom are here in this room today. We called our father's friends Amu, which means uncle. It's a term of endearment for a good friend of your father. And we called our mom's friends Khale, which means aunt or auntie. And so Khale Farah and Amu Piran have been with me all my life. And all of the kids were an extended family of cousins, if you will. Except for parto, she was beyond a cousin. She was my best friend. Parto and I were among the youngest kids of the group of friends. And most of the time, it was the two of us that were playing along the sidelines, while most of the action was with the older kids. And many times we'd watch the mischief of the older kids in bewilderment. But many times, parto would lead with her giggles, while sometimes I would be shocked at the action of some of the older ones, including Becky, by the way. Giggles was just parto's middle name. Those of you who heard and who saw from the pictures, she had an endless smile all of her life. Some of my favorite memories, and favorite pastimes from when we were little girls, was just good old-fashioned playing paper dolls, either on her bedroom floor or my bedroom floor. We could play for hours on end, first thing in the morning to last thing at night. In fact, parto's house was the only house I was allowed to spend the night at. And we had our own little slumber parties all the time. I just remember parto as being absolutely beautiful. I always thought she looked like Snow White, with her porcelain, fair skin, and her beautiful, straight black hair. She was really an envy of mine. You know, I was the kind of olive-toned, curly-haired one, and I just thought she was so beautiful. And I remember she would wear these gold bangles, alabu, as we call them in Farsi, and she had her gold bangles with her all the time. And I just remember the sound of her bangles jingling when she would toss and turn in the middle of the night. And I just thought she was the coolest thing. I thought the world of her. Then the revolution of 1979 occurred, and my family and I moved to the United States, and parto and I were separated, but only by distance. We remained the best pen pals, and we continued to write letters throughout the years. There was no email back then. She moved to Switzerland and then to Minnesota, and finally she moved to Canada until she met the love of her life. Where's Muhammad? She met the love of her life, Muhammad, who she called endearingly Mick. I'll never forget their wedding day. And parto was just absolutely glowing, like most brides are, but there was something so interesting about parto. She was glowing and beaming, but there was also this certain calm about her. The signature calm about parto. I remember the Vancouver skies that October afternoon. It was pouring rain, but she wasn't even fazed by it. She just kind of shrugged her shoulders and said, I guess we'll have to take our portraits another day. And there was this free spirit, easygoing attitude about her all of her life. And on the way to the ceremony, almost as an afterthought, I remember she just like, oh yeah, grabbed a bottle of nail polish and said, totally forgot, do you mind doing my nails? Wow. So I was surprised, but it was also refreshing. Like, she's just so casual. loved that sense of easygoingness about her all her life. So Parto and Mohammed settled in Florida, and a couple of years later, as luck would have it, Mohammed's job brought him here to the Bay Area. Imagine that, of all the places in the world, my husband and I had also met in the Bay Area and married here. And I thought, imagine that, out of all the places in the world, here we are together again. And so the past 17 years has been an absolutely beautiful reunification of our friendship. We've gone through all major milestones together. We were there at each other's weddings. We were there at our baby showers. Our birthdays being so close together, just 3 weeks apart in April and May, we had all of our birthday party celebrations together. We were there together for the birth of our sons. But besides the milestones, Parto was just always there for me. Every turn she was there. She may have not been the one that always had the stories, but she was the best listener. She was like a sounding board. She was never judgmental. She was always cheerful, always enthusiastic, always cheering me on, always being that source of calm. And Parto definitely stood out in a crowd. You know, she didn't stand out in the flashy way or in the, center of attention or life of the party way. But I've heard this from several people in the past week, especially, that I've reunited with some of her friends, or people that weren't even friends but had seen her. They said that Parto stood out because she was the one with the warm, welcoming smile. She just had this warmth about this welcoming face that greeted everyone and made these one-on-one connections with everyone. She just exuded warmth. And she loved to dance. From flamingo to her signature eshvet within her Persian dances, Parto was passionate about dance, as she was passionate about smiling and laughing. And her laugh was contagious. Sometimes I'd even tell her it wasn't that funny, but she just found humor in every situation and giggled her way through everything. And she never complained. I mean, 17 years, there should surely be things that she would find to complain about. I can honestly say she never complained. Up until the very end. When she was misdiagnosed for months, when we finally got the diagnosis, I myself was so angry at that doctor. And I just could not believe that she was so calm. So I'd say, Parto, how can you be so forgiving? And she would just shrug her shoulders and say, what are you going to do? But what she did do was fight. She fought hard, but she never complained. And she wasn't bitter. Honestly, it wasn't an act. We would have seen it. She truly took it one day at a time. And sometimes, especially towards the end, I thought maybe it's my responsibility as her closest friend to maybe have her get it out of her system. And I thought maybe it's healthy for her to break free and just say a word of complaint. She just refused. She wouldn't let the conversation go there. And when I reflect back on why, I think it's because her comfort zone was to be happy and to be optimistic and to be positive. And she just did not feel comfortable deviating from smiling. And even if the situation wasn't anything to smile about, she preferred not to say anything than to say anything negative. And I think there was a certain grace about that. She fought really hard, we saw that, but she really approached her illness with grace. This is a situation nobody would want to be in, but I see it as a privilege that I was the last person in the room with her when she passed. The family had given me that honor, and as Muhammad said, perhaps so that we can have one last slumber party. The last meaningful thing that she said was a day before her passing, because the very last day she was really too weak to talk. But really the last thing she said was she looked at me and she said, "Too short. Too short, indeed." I don't know if she was referring to the time with her sons. I don't know if she was referring to this span of 6-month treatment. And I don't know if she was referring to her life in general. But I agree, it was simply too short. But in honor of Parto and her cheerful disposition, I don't want us to sulk in sorrow. Let's continue on with the good spirits and be the best human beings that we can be in her honor. We all know this. The measure of a good life is certainly not by the dollars in the bank account or the number of hits you get on Google. The measure of an impactful life is the type of life that Parto led. Every single person that came in contact with her left with a feeling of warmth. And that's the most important impact that someone can leave in their lifetime. The number of ways she's touched our lives, the genuine warm feelings she has left with us, is the most important legacy anyone can leave. And so to that, let's see.